Loosely based industrial layout. Idea came from originally the Little Eaton Gang Road, loading against a canal wharf. Very old track, very old, based from the middle of the 1800s, hence the points are rather different to normal when you look at it. The idea with the back track at the top is a new track coming in, a new main line, having been pushed through as the development of the railways came, really. That's the whole idea behind it. The lime kiln being industry supplying lime to the farmers, hence the canal wharf to load it, to take it away. The little crane being here for loading other timber. The trains are newer than the layout, if you like. They're all industrial locomotives, based mainly from one line or another. All they are operated somewhere at some time. They've just been put together here, showing really a typical colliery line connecting colliery to wharf. Really, some are scratch built, some are kit built. The canal is real water. The boats are floating, and they're all scratch built boats. If you may have seen it, there's a mill building at the end there which will ultimately have a mill wheel on it. Okay.
It's loosely based on a railway principle of the M25.
Right.
It's a round circular line around London. It's south of the East Coast main line of Peterborough, and it joins the southwestern lines of Basingstoke. It's an anything goes layout because the 12 group members that we've got all model the same period of 1948 to 68, so it fits our period exactly. A lot of them's kit built, and a lot of them's detailed from models that you can buy in the shops.
Most of the buildings on the layout are either scratch built from plastic sheet, embossed plastic sheet, or adapted kits. Most of which was done between me and Mark.
Right.
The warehouse is totally scratch built. The model's modelled on the mid 50s to early 60s.
This layout was built in 1980 up in Durham City when it was originally a steam layout. We then moved down to Derbyshire and my son was growing up and he decided he wanted diesels. So obviously I gave in. We then were approached by exhibition manager at Grantham if we had any layouts with overhead catenary on. The answer was no. Can't you do one? So we said, well, ours is probably the easiest to put one on. And my son and I then designed where the various posts are situated. It's a French manufactured catenary with a UK importer. The French manufacturer have now gone out of business and the UK importer's closed down.
Right.
So we've got problems if we have problems.
Right. So it's a bit of a rarity, I would think.
Yes, we are looking now insofar as there's a German manufacturer, Sommerfeld, so we can use theirs, they are adaptable.
Right.
Now we've got their unusual training insofar as the loco is pushing. And the driving van trailer at the front.
Right.
In other words, you've got the fairly dangerous sort of situation there because anything could come off at the front.
Right.
You've got the power at the back pushing everything about.
I see. What about the actual locomotives that you've got?
Well, most of them are either Hornby or Lima.
Right.
The odd one, an old Triumph. And we've either repainted or detailed them up, renumbered and renamed them, just so that they're not straight out of the box.
Oh, right.
That's certainly something that a lot of people do, but we like to be a little bit different.
Okay.
The recent addition has been the level crossing. It did have crossing gates on.
Right.
Because of the modern image now, we've put the flashing lights on.
Right.
That's new for this layout, for this exhibition.
Okay.
Colour light signals are manually operated,
Right.
so it keeps the operator on the toes. Now this is an interesting limestone train. The 7 ICI hoppers are representative of the real thing at Buxton, Peak Forest, and in fact were manufactured by the Buxton model shop there, and he's since sold out, and so we can't get any more of those hoppers now. So they're quite a rarity these days.
What about this train?
Well, these again are models of the ones that are in the Buxton area. They're Lima PCAs, we call them PCAs, for cement, holding cement.
Okay.
And we try and have the right loco on the right train. That loco, in fact, was one that was outbased at Buxton at one time, but has since been withdrawn. The idea is that we hold them in the loop while probably an express goes by. So hopefully something's coming down shortly.
Right.
Interesting as far as when the tunnels were in place and we had to put the overhead catenary on, just like British Rail, we've got to alter the bridges. So the bridges now don't look perhaps quite authentic, look a little bit large. the oil tankers going through there are standard Lima ones, except I've cut off the couplings and put screw link couplings on to make them a closer fit. You get more on your layout and more realistic as well. Flashing tail lights are a modern innovation. We've only got them on one of ours because we feel that we've got enough things on here to keep going, especially with the Catena, which is quite hard to uphold. You need to have plenty of patience because when we take the layout down, certain sections have got to come out, and then when you rebuild it all again, it's quite time consuming. It took me 4 hours just to get the thing up and running yesterday.
Based on the Midland Railway about the turn of the century, somewhere in Derbyshire. The actual station building is a real station building. It's got on the Peak Railway Society's line at Darley-Dale. All the stock on O'Gay's layouts like this, they're all built from kits, or in some cases scratch built. The actual track plan is based on a station in Derbyshire, although not a Midland one. All the locomotives are basically brass kits. They're all ex-brass sheet. You have to bend up, solder, you know, and then all the detailing parts are stuff called white metal. Chimneys, domes, they're then glued on. A lot of the wagon kits are plastic kits with obviously metal wheels. Some of the things are completely scratch built, like the gun truck. The gun barrel itself, in the case of that, is a big piece of steel. To give it some weight so that the wagon runs. It actually runs all the way to the point where no problem at all.
Based on the London area, North London area, it's fictitious of course. Some of the stations are as real life stations, like Ealing Parkway is derived from Ealing Broadway. Right. It's a miniature version of it, of course, with the underground. That depicts the western region, where it comes out, and this would be the Midland region running through on the main line. Then there's a junction further down there, which is called it's the Eastern Region Junction. It's really got a name for it, which comes up as a single line.
It's actually my son's. He started it when he was about 11 years of age, and it was 8 foot by 5 foot originally, and he put 5 foot in the middle to make a longer run, and basically it's sort of grown with him. Well, all the track is Peco standard N-gauge, concrete sleepers, and the points again are Peco with Peco motors on. And most of the stock is Graham Farris, except for a couple of Minitrix locos and 2 Lima locos, which were resurrected from somebody's scrap. And apart from the baseboards which I built, my son did all the rest of the work, helped by his sister and his mother. We come from Derbyshire, so a lot of the ideas came from Derbyshire. Obviously the viaduct is like the old Monsaldale viaduct, and obviously they run through the country as well. The station is based on a similar model that we used to have in the Railway Club. So unfortunately now he's 17 years of age and he's having to work on a Saturday, so we have to bring it out for him.
The layout itself is based on Durham in 1938. It was part of a larger layout in the garage, but I then decided to make it into a portable layout to bring to exhibitions. This year I decided to cover it in snow, having seen one at a similar exhibition. Using sort of plaster and white undercoat paint, and the odd can of Christmas snow just to get the effect on the buildings. So the track is Peco track and Peco points. The engines are a mixture of chassis, Minitrix chassis, Farris chassis, and kits for the bodies, and some are scratch built to achieve the locos. All the locos are what ran at Durham in around about the 1930s under the LNER time. And the buildings are all scratch built based on the Durham buildings themselves. They're all built using plasticard and girders and various other items. That's based on the Durham Viaduct. It's slightly shortened because of the actual length. There should be, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got 9 arches and there should be 11 arches. But it would have meant putting another extension on the layout and use a bit of poetic license and shortened it a bit.
Oh, it was sponsored by Redland, the Redland building company.
Right.
And this is a scale model of their sidings at Barrow on Soar. They've got a very big quarry at Mount Sorrel, and then they send it by conveyor to Barrow on Soar and to the railhead. And they designed a self-discharging train, which was unique. I mean, previously they had to load the wagons, take them down there, and at the bottom discharge them. But then they designed one where there's a conveyor belt runs completely under all the wagons, and then you've got a wagon which you can see over there. Look, and it runs up those and self-discharges into lorries. So it's a completely self-contained unit. And they approached us to model it for them. And then we took this actual layout out on behalf of Redland to show people just what it was, which we've done. This is the Soar Valley Mod Railway Club. And eventually they said, right, we've got no more use for it, so you have it. So when we exhibit it, we've been all over the country with it. It's quite famous now. And then everything that goes by here, we can prove is actually run by there. We actually sort of went there and took logs, etc. And we say we've got to drive Ian Hubbard. He drives the HSTs, so he knows what runs on this line. There's about 35 members in the club, Soar Valley Mod Railway Club. We're based at Quorn. But we've got a bigger layout than this as well, which we've just finished. And that one's about 98 feet long. That's set up at Quorn in our clubhouse, yeah. So, and it's been invited out now to one or two other venues, which we're still talking about at the moment. That train that's going through now, that's completely scratch built. All those are, the kits and scratch built tops. You can't buy those proprietary at all. So all there are is shunting locomotive. They just have them in the sidings at Barrow on Soar for just shunting duties, that's all. But they're radio controlled, and they're operated from a cab in the centre, and then you've got two running either side, and that's just for shunting their own wagons within the yard.
Constructing 7mm scale locomotives from etched brass kits. It's an easy way of getting good quality model without going to the extent of cutting out everything yourself. I don't pretend to be an engineer. I'm not very good with lathes and milling equipment. These kits come complete with all the bits and pieces, chimneys, domes. You get the opportunity to uprate some of the pieces, but most of the kits are complete, and the quality, if you buy right, is good. So you don't have to worry about having a lot of pieces that you have to throw away at the end of the day. The kits themselves come on a series of etched sheets, normally done on a computer by the designer, which makes them a lot more accurate than the days when they had to be drawn by hand. And usually about 3 times the scale and reduced down by camera. Your job is to cut them out, fold them to shape, and hope that the designer has done his job properly, so that they fit in the first place. There's always some filing and cutting to size to be done, but basically the worst of it's done for you. I've got an example here of the firebox and smoke box of this loco, which is a Wainwright D, which is a Gladiator kit. One of the better manufacturers around nowadays. It comes on 4 brass wrappers. The main firebox, which when formed, this will have to be bent out. I've annealed this on the stove at home to make the brass form better, and rolled it on a pair of rolling bars before bringing it here. When the formers on the inside are soldered in, here they are on the edge here, that will be the boiler. These will be bent out straight, and hopefully I will finish up with another model like that, which unfortunately took me 3 evenings. It's not quick, but it is easier than if I had to cut it all out myself. Average time to build a kit, I'd say, would be around 100 hours. And then you make the choice of whether or not to paint it yourself, or take it to a professional for painting. That one I painted myself. That's a Great Western version of the Great Central ROD. I painted that with a car spray and 3/4 horsepower compressor using cellulose paints, and weathered again with cellulose, and finally shaking talcum powder over it and brushing it off afterwards. The only snag is, if you handle it too many times, Scotland Yard can come along and test their fingerprint students on it. That loco there is an Immingham, built from a Gladiator kit. It was painted by Les Richards, professional painter. And that really is a skill in itself. There's probably 7 or 8 people in the country who make a living from painting models, and he's one of the best. It's an expensive job to get them all painted by other people. So you try to do what you can yourself. You don't have to have expensive painting equipment. You can use aerosols. If you look through the range of aerosols, you often find that British Racing Green will approximate to Great Western Green, and that sort of thing.